All right, so today we're going to be making some one-point perspective landscapes. You're going to need a pencil and an eraser. So we're going to just do a few thumbnail sketches. And remember, thumbnail sketches are just small little drawings. So let's start with just a simple rectangle shape. If you get a little off, you can go ahead and correct it. It's not a big deal. So we have a small, but not too tiny rectangle on our page. We're going to start first with our one-point perspective drawing. We're going to start with the horizon line. So we're going to go a little bit above halfway, and we're going to make a horizontal line across the page. Now on this horizontal line, we're going to put our 1 point. And let's put this 1 point right in the middle. And we're going to put it right on the horizon line. So from this point, we're going to be drawing a triangle. And this triangle is actually a road. Now let's make it look like a road now. We're going to come right into the middle, and we're going to make a rectangle shape. And then our next one up is going to be a little bit smaller and a little bit higher. And they're going to get smaller and higher as we go until they become little dots. And so we now have a road on our 1 point perspective mark. We're now going to take and add in some hills. So we're just going to take and put in some rolling hills. We could add in a moon or a sun. We could take and add in some objects, and as we add in our objects, we're going to put our trees in the foreground, the midground, and the background. And our foreground trees are going to need to be a little bit bigger because they're in the foreground. Our midground trees, the ones in the middle, are going to be a little bit smaller because they're in the middle. And those in the far background are going to be very, very tiny. And this helps to create our 1 point perspective view. And so you can add in more if you want to. It's up to you. Just remember to follow that there are larger ones in the front, and in the midground they're medium size, and in the background they are tiny. So there we have a 1 point perspective road. Let's go ahead and make another thumbnail box, and we don't want them to touch. We want there to be at least a little space between them. That will keep them from getting confusing. So always make sure you leave a little section between your thumbnails. And let's go ahead and put in our horizon line again. And this time though, we're going to move our 1 point over to the side. So I put a little 1 point on my horizon line. And this time we're going to put in a pathway, and we're going to go towards that side, and then we're going to arch down and come down into the front. Now as we go to draw the other side of this path, think of this almost as like being a snake's tail. So a snake's tail isn't lumpy. It starts off really, really thin, and it slowly gets thicker and thicker. So you could see how that could be a snake's tail. And that gives us a path going off into the distance. We could add in some mountains this time. Oops, I actually went a little bit below my horizon line. I've got to keep them above my horizon line. I could add in a sun or a moon again. And this time let's add in some cactuses. Now just like with the trees, our cactuses, the ones in the front need to be big in our foreground. In the midground they need to be medium sized, and in the background they need to be really tiny. So to make a cactus, I'm going to make an upside down U. Then I'm going to add little arms onto it. A little arm onto that one. And then I could add in some stripes. And we have a little cactus. But this one is in our front, so our next one has to be smaller. It's in the midground. So this time I make my U a little bit smaller. I add on a couple of arms. I add on a trunk with a curved bottom. And I add in some little lines. I could make some more here if I wanted to. I start with an upside down U, add in some arms, put in some stripes. We have two cactuses in our midground. You'll notice how they're a little bit smaller than the cactus in our foreground. Now let's put in a cactus in our background. This one's going to be so tiny, so little. That cactus looks like it's far, far away. Now I could add some grasses if I wanted to, little shrubs. Notice they get smaller as they go back. I could do the same thing over in this one. I could add in some shrubs here or there, some grasses, but I pay attention to their sizes. I could add in a small little lake too if I wanted to. Maybe my desert actually has a small little lake happening. I make a little squish circle and now we have a lake as well. Now let's make one more thumbnail. Notice once again I'm leaving a space between them. I'm not letting them touch. Each thumbnail has its own separate space on my page. And once again I'm going to add in the horizon line. It is horizontal. And this time we're going to be at the beach. So remember when you're at the beach we've got the sky and the water. So the horizon line sits right at that point. And at this time we're going to take and put one little dot on our horizon line in the middle. And we're going to start just like we did when we did our road up above. But this time instead of making the road marks, we're going to turn it into a pier. So we're going to take and draw a line across just like we're making the letter A. But this time we're going to take and actually erase out, let me get my bigger eraser. We're going to erase out the top of our A. And I'm going to erase that one point as well. And redraw it all in if I erased any out. So we now have a pier going back into the water. And now let's add a little bit though to make that pier look more realistic. First we're going to take and we're going to add in some planks. Now as we go up, the planks get closer and closer together. They can have a little wave to them. They don't need to be perfect, but they're going to get closer and closer as they go. And that will make them look like they're going back in the distance. Now often in piers there's also little posts at the end. So to make our first post, we're going to come over to the side and we're going to basically make, imagine if you were making like a letter L right here. The trick is to make this going straight up and down. You want it to be parallel to the edge of your paper. So I'm going to make a post. And there's one little post. And notice it's not angling out. It's going straight up and down. Same with this one. This would be like if I had a backwards L right here. So first I start with just the line and then I thicken it up a little bit. I turn it into a post. So I have two posts happening there. Now I'm going to go a little ways up. I'm going to make another line going straight up. This time this post is going to be smaller because it's in the midground. The first posts were in the foreground. I'm going to put one on the other side too. Notice that I put it straight up and down. I don't have it angled over. We'll have a tendency to want to put them at an angle, but think of them as a letter L, like the top of an L. That will make it easier to be able to make it. And then at the very end, I'm going to put some very, very tiny ones because these are in the background. Once again, they need to be straight up and down. And so I have little posts at my pier. Now I'm going to take and put in some railing. So I come to the top of my first post, I drop down a little bit, and I do a curved line. Drop down from the top, curved line out. And now I'm going to take and put in curved lines between all of my posts. And it's going to kind of go over that other line we had, but now it's going to have a slight curve to it. So now we have our pier in. Now let's add in some boats, and that will make it look a little more realistic. Now remember, the pier goes out over the water, so all of this is water all the way around. Okay, this isn't sand, it's all water. You could do sand if you wanted to, but that could get a little confusing. So right here we're going to put in our first boat, And we're going to put in a sailboat. So we're going to put in a triangle shape. We're going to add a little mast to it, and then a half circle. And we have our first boat. Now that one's in our foreground. Let's put one in our midground now. So this one is going to be a little bit smaller than that one because it's a little bit farther back. So I make the triangle with the mast and a half circle. So that boat's a little bit farther back. And let's put one back in the far background. So I make a tiny triangle with a mast and a little tiny half circle. And that boat is now back out in the distance. I could put in a sun or a moon if I wanted. I could add birds. And I could keep adding lots of things to all three of these, but those would be the basic one-point perspective landscapes that you could do today. I hope you enjoyed your lesson.